The lights in the research lab cast long shadows across the metal floors of Kepler Station. Dr. Hyun-Ki Park worked late again, his fingers dancing across the holographic displays showing alien DNA sequences. The station hummed quietly around him, floating in the empty space between stars. "Papa, look what I drew." 8-year-old So-min ran into the lab, her small feet making soft sounds on the floor. She held up a piece of paper covered in colorful drawings of strange creatures with big eyes and thin arms. Hyun-Ki smiled and picked up his daughter. "Very beautiful, little star. Are these the Villani researchers?" So-min nodded eagerly. "That's Hummer. He taught me how his people make music with their mouth parts. And that soft chime." She showed me pictures of their home planet with the purple trees. The Villani were peaceful aliens who looked like large insects walking on 2 legs. They had thin bodies covered in smooth shell-like skin and made musical sounds when they talked. Most other species in the galaxy thought they were weak and scared of everything, but So-min loved spending time with them in the research labs. "Where is Hummer now?" Hyun-Ki asked, setting his daughter down. "In Lab 7 with the others. They're working on something important about healing medicine." So-min bounced on her toes. "Can I go show him my drawing?" "After dinner, little star." It's getting late, but dinner never came. The first explosion shook the entire station. Emergency lights flashed red and a loud alarm started blaring. Hyun-Ki grabbed So-min and pulled her under his desk as another blast rocked the lab. "Papa, what's happening?" So-min's voice was small and frightened. Before Hyun-Ki could answer, Captain Baksu's voice came over the speakers. "All personnel, this is not a drill. We are under attack by Krillian raiders. Repeat, Krillian raiders have breached our defenses. Evacuate to emergency pods immediately." Hyun-Ki's blood went cold. The Krillians were the worst kind of aliens in the galaxy. They looked like giant lizards that walked upright with sharp teeth and claws. They traveled in huge ships attacking peaceful stations and planets to steal people and sell them as slaves. "Come, So-min, we need to leave now." Hyun-Ki took his daughter's hand and ran toward the corridor. The hallways were full of smoke and the sound of laser weapons. Other researchers ran past them, some crying, some wounded. The station's security guards fought desperately against the Krillian attackers, but there were too many of them. "The evacuation pods are destroyed," someone shouted. "We're trapped." Hyun-Ki's heart sank. He looked down at So-min, who was holding onto his lab coat with both hands. Her eyes were wide with fear, but she was trying to be brave. A group of Krillian soldiers rounded the corner ahead of them. They were huge, twice as tall as humans, with dark green scales and glowing yellow eyes. Their weapons made terrible buzzing sounds as they fired. "Back this way." Hyun-Ki picked up So-min and ran in the opposite direction. They reached Lab 7 just as the door sealed shut behind them. Inside, 3 Villani researchers were huddled together, their antenna-like sensors twitching with terror. When they saw Hyun-Ki and So-min, they made soft musical sounds of greeting. "Dr. Park." "Small human So-min." Hummer stepped forward. His real name was a series of clicks and musical notes that humans couldn't pronounce, so So-min had nicknamed him Hummer. "We are most fearful. The evil scaled ones have come. The Krillians broke through our defenses," Hyun-Ki said, breathing hard. "The evacuation pods are gone. We're trapped here." Soft Chime Flutter, the female Villani researcher, made worried humming sounds. "Our people have no knowledge of fighting. We do not know how to protect ourselves from the scaled destroyers." The third Villani, Deep Thrum Song, was already working at a computer terminal. "Perhaps we can hide in the biocontainment vault. It has strong walls and its own air supply." More explosions echoed through the station. The sounds of fighting were getting closer. "Papa, I'm scared," So-min whispered. Hyun-Ki knelt down and took his daughter's face in his hands. "Listen to me, little star. Papa needs to go help the other people on the station, but I want you to stay here with Hummer and his friends. They will keep you safe." "No, don't leave me." So-min grabbed onto his shirt. "I must, So-min. But you'll be safe with the Villani. They are good friends." Hyun-Ki looked up at Hummer. "Please, if something happens to me, protect her." Hummer's large compound eyes seemed to shimmer. In his musical voice, he said, "We will guard the small human with our lives, Dr. Park. This we promise." The lab door suddenly sparked and began to glow. The Krillians were cutting through it with their weapons. "Go! Into the vault now!" Hyun-Ki pushed So-min toward the biocontainment chamber. The 3 Villani quickly gathered around her, their thin arms creating a protective circle. "Papa." So-min reached out for him. "I love you, little star. Remember that always." Hyun-Ki sealed the vault door just as the lab entrance exploded inward. 3 Krillian soldiers stormed in, their weapons ready. Their leader was massive, with scars across his scaled face and metal implants along his jaw. "Where are the others, human?" the leader growled in broken standard language. Hyun-Ki stood between the raiders and the biovault. "There's no one else here." "Just me," the Krillian sniffed the air. "I smell fear. Small human scent. Child is here?" "You're wrong. I'm alone." The Krillian leader raised his weapon. "Then you are useless to us." The laser blast hit Hyun-Ki in the chest. He fell to the floor, his vision growing dark. With his last breath, he whispered toward the vault, "Be strong, my little star." Inside the bio-containment chamber, So-Min pressed her hands against the thick glass window. Tears ran down her face as she watched her father die. The 3 Villani gathered closer around her, their own bodies shaking with fear. "The small human's life-giver has gone to the beyond place," Hummer said softly. "Now we 3 must honor his final words." "But we are not warriors," Soft Chime whispered. "We have never fought anything. Our people run from danger." "Then today we learned to be different," Deep Thrum replied, his usual gentle tone now firm with purpose. The Krillians were searching the lab, destroying equipment and looking for hidden doors. It would not be long before they found the biovault. Hummer looked down at So-Min, who was still crying quietly. "Small human, can you hear us?" So-Min nodded. "We will not let the scale destroyers take you. This we swear by the songs of our ancestors. You are under Villani protection now." Outside the vault, the 3 researchers who had never heard anything in their lives began to prepare for war. The Krillian soldiers moved through Lab 7 like hungry predators. Their leader, War Chief Scarth, kicked Dr. Park's body aside and sniffed the air again. His yellow eyes scanned every corner of the room. "Small human is here somewhere," he growled to his warriors. "Find it. Young humans bring good price in slave markets." The 3 Villani researchers stood near their workstations trying to look calm. But their antenna sensors were twitching with terror, and their thin bodies shook like leaves in the wind. Hummer stepped forward. His voice made soft musical notes as he spoke in standard language. "Honored warriors, there are no humans here except the dead one. We are only simple researchers. We have no value to you." Scarth turned his massive head toward the insect-like alien. "I know your species, Bug. Villani are cowards. You run from your own shadows. But I smell child scent, and it comes from this room. Perhaps the scent comes from the dead father," Soft Chime Flutter suggested, her voice trembling like a broken song. The war chief laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "You think I am stupid? I have hunted humans for many cycles. I know the difference between adult scent and young human scent." He began walking around the lab, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. The other 2 Krillians spread out, checking behind equipment and inside storage units. Deep Thrum's song quietly moved to his computer terminal. His fingers worked fast, but he tried to look like he was just checking his research data. Really, he was accessing the lab's biocontainment systems. "What are you doing, Bug?" One of the Krillian soldiers snarled, pointing his weapon at Deep Thrum. Only checking if my experiments are safe from the explosions," Deep Thrum replied. "If the dangerous bacteria escape, they could harm everyone on the station." The soldier seemed satisfied and went back to searching. Inside the biovault, So-Min watched through the thick glass window. She could see everything happening in the lab. Her father's body lay still on the floor, and the terrible lizard creatures were looking for her. She wanted to cry out, but she pressed her hands over her mouth to stay quiet. Hummer had taught her some basic Villani language during their time together. She knew that when they hummed in low tones, it meant they were afraid. All 3 of her friends were humming very low notes now, but she also noticed something else. Deep Thrum was doing something at his computer that made the lab's warning lights blink. Soft Chime was slowly moving toward the chemical storage area, and Hummer was positioning himself directly between the Krillians and the biovault. "Found something," the 2nd Krillian soldier called out. He was standing near the wall where the biovault was hidden behind a false panel. "Strange readings here. High energy. Something sealed behind this wall." War Chief Scarth moved toward the hidden door. "Break it open. Wait." Hummer stepped between the war chief and the wall. His musical voice was stronger now, less afraid. "That area contains dangerous biological samples. If you break the containment, deadly viruses could escape." Scarth stared down at the Villani researcher, even though Hummer was tall for his species. The Krillian towered over him like a mountain over a tree. "Move aside, Bug, or I will crush you." Hummer's compound eyes met the war chief's glowing yellow gaze. For the first time in his life, the peaceful researcher did not step back from danger. "No," he said simply. The word hung in the air like a challenge. The other Krillians stopped what they were doing and stared. In all their years of raiding, they had never heard a Villani refuse a direct threat. "What did you say?" Scarth's voice was deadly quiet. "I said no. You will not pass. The small human is under Villani protection." Scarth's jaw dropped open, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then he began to laugh again. "Villani protection? You cowards couldn't protect a flower from a gentle breeze. Stand aside before I lose my patience." Instead of moving, Hummer spread his thin arms wide. His voice carried clearly through the lab. "Soft chime. Deep thrum now." Everything happened at once. Deep Thrum's fingers slammed down on his computer controls. The lab's emergency systems activated, sealing all the doors and cutting power to non-essential systems. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Soft Chime Flutter opened the chemical storage units and began mixing compounds with her 4 hands, moving faster than human eyes could follow. Her species' natural skills with biological materials served her well, and Hummer began to sing. It was not the gentle humming that Soman was used to hearing. This was something ancient and powerful, a war song that the Villani had not sung for thousands of years. His voice filled the lab with sounds that made the metal walls vibrate. "Kill them all," Scarth roared, raising his weapon. But as he fired, Deep Thrum activated the lab's magnetic containment fields. The laser blast went wide, hitting the ceiling instead of Hummer. The first Krillian soldier charged toward Soft Chime, but she threw a container of her mixed chemicals at his feet. The compound ate through his armor like acid, and he screamed as it burned his scales. War Chief Scarth swung his massive claws at Hummer. The Villani researcher was fast, but not fast enough. The claws tore through his shell-like skin, sending him flying across the room. "The wall. Break down the wall," Scarth ordered his remaining soldier. Deep Thrum tried to stop them, but a laser blast caught him in the shoulder. His arm hung useless as green blood dripped onto the floor. Still, he kept working at his computer, trying to keep the lab's defenses active. Soft Chime created more chemical weapons, but the Krillians learned to avoid her throws. One of them got close enough to slash her with his claws. She fell beside her workstation, her breathing quick and painful. Inside the vault, Somin was crying as she watched her protectors fall one by one. "Hummer," she called through the communication system. "Please run away. Save yourselves." Hummer pulled himself up from the floor. Green blood covered his chest where Scarth's claws had cut him, but his compound eyes were still bright and his voice was still strong. "We do not run, small human," he said, looking directly at the vault's window. "Your life-giver asked us to protect you. This we will do until our songs end." War Chief Scarth was using his weapon to cut through the wall panels. Sparks flew as the metal began to melt. "Almost through, little human. Soon you will come with us to the slave markets." Deep Thrum made one final effort. With his good arm, he triggered the lab's emergency purge system. Toxic gases began to fill the room. The Krillians coughed and their eyes watered, but their breathing equipment kept them alive. The wall panel finally broke apart. Through the hole, Scarth could see the bio-vault and the small human child inside. Hummer made his last stand directly in front of the hole. His shell was cracked, his breathing was shallow, but he would not move. For Dr. Park," he whispered. "For the small human who drew pictures of our homeworld." Scarth's claws pierced through Hummer's chest. The Villani researcher fell to his knees, but even then he tried to block the way. "Brave, but stupid bug," Scarth said. He pushed past Hummer's body and reached for the vault controls. As the bio-containment door began to open, Hummer used his last strength to activate his personal communicator. His dying message went out on all emergency frequencies, reaching far beyond the station. "This is Villani researcher. Designation Hummer, on Kepler Station. 3 of our people have died protecting human child Somin Park. We could not save her, but we tried. Tell the humans. Tell them we tried." His voice faded as War Chief Scarth dragged the crying child from the vault. Somin reached back toward Hummer's still form. "Hummer, please wake up, Hummer." But the 3 Villani researchers would never wake up again. Their song had ended, but their message was already traveling through space, racing toward Earth at the speed of light. Soon, the entire galaxy would know what 3 peaceful aliens had done for 1 human child. The message from Kepler Station reached Earth 3 days later. It traveled through the quantum communication network that connected all human colonies across the galaxy. When it arrived at the United Earth Congress building in Geneva, everything changed. President Tae-sung Kim was in a meeting about trade agreements when his assistant, Jun-ho, burst through the door. The young man's face was pale and his hands shook as he held a data pad. "Mr. President, you need to see this immediately," Jun-ho said. "It's from Kepler Station." President Kim took the pad and read the report. His face grew darker with each line. When he finished, he set the device down carefully and closed his eyes. "How many survivors?" he asked quietly. 17 out of 43 station personnel. No sign of Dr. Park or his daughter. The Krillians took all the survivors as slaves, including the child. And the 3 Villani? Dead, sir. They died defending Dr. Park's daughter. We have their final message. President Kim stood up slowly. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes, but now those eyes burned with anger. "Call an emergency session of Congress. Contact all the news networks. And get me Fleet Admiral Yu on the line immediately." "Yes, sir. But Mr. President, what are you planning?" "Something that should have been done long ago." 2 hours later, the Great Hall of the United Earth Congress was packed. Representatives from every human world sat in their seats talking in worried whispers. The giant screens around the room showed the official seal of Earth, but everyone knew something important was about to happen. President Kim walked to the central podium. The room fell silent. "My fellow humans," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. 3 days ago, we received a distress call from Kepler Research Station. I will not read you the full report. Instead, I will let you hear the final words of 3 beings who died protecting one of our children. The speakers crackled to life. Hummer's voice, weak and fading, filled the hall. "This is Villani researcher, designation Hummer, on Kepler Station. 3 of our people have died protecting human child Somin Park. We could not save her. But we tried. Tell the humans. Tell them we tried." The silence that followed was complete. Some representatives wiped tears from their eyes. Others sat frozen in shock. Representative Mi Young Choi from the Mars colony stood up. Her voice was tight with emotion. "Mr. President, what exactly happened on that station?" "Dr. Hyun-Ki Park, one of our finest xenobiologists, was killed defending his research lab from Krillian raiders. Before he died, he asked 3 Villani researchers to protect his 8-year-old daughter. These 3 aliens, members of a species known throughout the galaxy for avoiding all conflict, chose to make their last stand defending a human child they barely knew." The president paused, letting his words sink in. They had no weapons training. They had no military experience. Their entire species has never fought a war in their recorded history. But when faced with armored Krillian warriors, they chose to fight and die rather than let harm come to Little Somin Park. Admiral Jun-ho Yu, the head of Earth's combined fleet, stood up in the military section. He was a big man with scars on his face from battles against space pirates. His voice boomed across the chamber. "Mr. President, what are our orders? Admiral, I want you to prepare the largest rescue operation in human history. We're going to get Somin back. And we're going to make sure everyone in the galaxy knows what happens when you harm someone under human protection." Representative Do-hyun Lee from the Titan colonies raised his hand. "Mr. President, with respect, we don't have any formal protection agreements with the Villani. They're not part of our alliance." President Kim's eyes flashed. "Representative Lee, 3 members of their species died for one of our children. They made their choice about alliances when they gave their lives. The question is, what choice will we make?" The hall erupted in discussion. Some representatives argued about costs and military resources. Others talked about galactic politics and trade agreements. But slowly, a different voice began to rise above the others. It started with Representative Sang-wook Park from the Luna colonies. He stood up and said simply, "They died for us. We owe them." Then Representative Hyejin Kim from Europa. "My daughter is 8 years old, just like Somin. If aliens died protecting her, I would move heaven and earth to honor their sacrifice." One by one, more representatives stood up. Each one spoke about duty, honor, and the debt they owed to 3 beings who barely reached a human's shoulder. "The Villani asked for nothing," said Representative Woo Jin-yu from Alpha Centauri. "They expected nothing. They just saw a frightened child and chose to be heroes." President Kim watched as the mood in the chamber shifted. When the discussion died down, he spoke again. I am announcing Executive Order 2387 Alpha. As of today, the Volani species is under official Terran protection. Any attack against Volani worlds, ships, or citizens will be considered an act of war against humanity. The vote was unanimous. Ambassador Yoonji Lee immediately began sending messages to other governments across the galaxy. She contacted the Altarian Republic, the Centauri Federation, and even the powerful Andorian Empire. The responses were polite but lukewarm. The humans are being emotional again, the Altarian president told his council. They'll calm down in a few weeks. The Andorian Empress was more direct. 3 bugs died for 1 human child. This is hardly worth restructuring galactic politics. But Ambassador Lee kept sending messages. She included Hummer's final transmission with each one. She attached video files showing the 3 Volani researchers' bodies, found still guarding the biovault where Somin had been hidden. Some governments started to reconsider. The Keth, an amphibious species from the water worlds, sent a private message. We have heard of the Volani sacrifice. It reminds us of our own values. We will watch how this develops. Admiral Yu worked day and night preparing the rescue fleet. He called it Task Force Vengeance, and it would be the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. 3 full battle groups, orbital bombardment platforms, and the newest dreadnought fresh from the shipyards. What should we name the dreadnought, Admiral? Asked Captain Donghyun Nam. The Hyunki Park, Admiral Yu replied without hesitation. After Somin's father. The ship naming ceremony was broadcast across human space. President Kim spoke from the bridge of the massive warship. This vessel carries more than weapons, he said, his hand resting on the ship's main console. It carries our promise to Dr. Park, to his daughter, and to 3 beings who prove that courage has nothing to do with size or species. In the audience, Dr. Soo Young Park watched through tears. She was Dr. Hyun-Ki Park's sister, and she had volunteered to help with the Volani integration programs that were already being planned. We will bring them home, she whispered to herself. All of them. The news networks picked up every detail of the military preparations. Reporters interviewed families of fleet personnel, Volani researchers working on other human stations, and ordinary citizens from across human space. Why are we doing this? A reporter asked a dock worker on the Mars orbital shipyards. Why risk our ships and people for aliens? The worker, a middle-aged woman named Jin A-song, looked directly into the camera. Because they died for one of our kids. That makes them family, and we don't abandon family. The sentiment was repeated in interviews across the colonies. Humanity had found its answer to the galaxy's question about whether the human protection of the Volani was just empty words. It wasn't. As Task Force Vengeance prepared to depart, President Kim sent one final message to the galactic community. It was short and simple. The human species has declared the Volani people under our protection. This is not a request for approval. This is a statement of fact. Test us at your own risk. The fleet launched 3 days later, bound for Krillian space. Admiral Yu stood on the bridge of the Hyun-Ki Park, watching the blue glow of Earth disappear behind them. Admiral, Captain Nam asked, what if the other galactic powers try to stop us? Then they'll learn what the Krillians are about to learn, Admiral Yu replied. Humanity keeps its promises. In the depths of space, Task Force Vengeance accelerated toward its destination. Behind them, Earth's factories worked around the clock, building more ships and preparing for a war that might reshape the entire galaxy. All for one 8-year-old girl and 3 aliens who had chosen to be heroes. Task Force Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Krill system like an avenging storm. Admiral Junho Yu stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Hyun-Ki Park, watching the enemy installations appear on his tactical displays. Admiral, we've found their main slave processing facility, reported Captain Donghyun Nam. It's on the 4th moon of Krill Prime. Heavy defenses, but nothing we can't handle. And the Krillian fleet? Most of their warships are spread across the sector on raiding missions. We caught them with their guard down. Admiral Yu smiled grimly. Good, signal all ships. We're going in fast and hard. I want every Krillian in this system to understand that they made a very big mistake. The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, 3 battle groups spread out to surround the moon, while the orbital bombardment platforms took position above the slave facility. The Krillians barely had time to sound their alarms before the attack began. Incoming transmission from the facility, the communications officer announced. They're demanding to know who we are and what we want. Put me through, Admiral Yu ordered. His face appeared on screens throughout the Krillian base. This is Admiral Yu of the United Earth Combined Fleet. You are holding a human child named So-Min Park, along with other survivors from Kepler Station. You will release them immediately. The response came from War Chief Scarth himself. The massive Krillian appeared on the main screen, his scarred face twisted in anger. Foolish humans. You dare attack a Krillian stronghold for a few worthless slaves? Leave now or we will add your crews to our collection. I don't think you understand, Admiral Yu replied calmly. That little girl is under human protection. So were the 3 Villani who died defending her. You killed beings under our protection. That makes this personal. Scarth laughed, showing his rows of sharp teeth. 3 cowardly bugs died for nothing. The child will be sold to the highest bidder. There is nothing you can do to stop it. We'll see about that. All ships commence bombardment. The space around the moon lit up with weapons fire. Human plasma cannons turned Krillian defense satellites into expanding clouds of debris. Missile salvos overwhelmed their shield generators. Within minutes, the facility's outer defenses were gone. Deploy the Marines, Admiral Yu ordered. Colonel Seung Hwan. Oh led the assault teams down to the moon's surface. He was a veteran of dozens of battles against pirates and slavers, but he had never felt anger like this before. The image of 3 peaceful researchers dying to protect a human child burned in his mind. Remember, he told his troops over the comm system, we're here for the girl and any other survivors. But anyone who stands in our way learns what happens when you hurt our people. The Krillian ground forces were tough, but they weren't prepared for the fury of human Marines fighting to save a child. Squad after squad of humans pushed through the facility's corridors, their weapons carving through Krillian defenders. Found something, Sergeant Bora Kim called out. She was standing in front of a heavy door marked with Krillian symbols. This looks like their main detention area. Colonel O placed charges on the door. The explosion echoed through the complex and smoke poured out as the Marines rushed inside. The detention center was a nightmare of small cells packed with prisoners from a dozen different species. Humans, Altarians, even some Keth were locked behind energy barriers, many of them wounded and all of them terrified. Where's the human child? Colonel O demanded, grabbing a Krillian guard by the throat. Where is So-Min Park? The guard pointed with a shaking claw toward a section marked for premium merchandise. Colonel O threw him aside and ran toward the area. In a small cell at the end of the corridor, they found her. So-Min Park sat in the corner of her prison, her arms wrapped around her knees. She was thinner than in her pictures and her clothes were dirty, but she was alive. When she saw the human Marines, her eyes went wide. Are you here to save me? She asked in a small voice. Colonel O knelt down in front of her cell and quickly disabled the energy barrier. Yes, little one. We're here to take you home. So-Min looked up at him with hope and fear mixed together. Did you find Hummer? And Soft Chime? And Deep Thrum? Are they okay? Colonel O's heart broke. He took off his helmet so she could see his face clearly. They were very brave, So-Min. They fought to protect you until the very end. Because of them, we knew where to find you. Are they dead? Colonel O nodded gently. Yes, little one. But they died as heroes. The whole galaxy knows what they did for you. So-Min began to cry. Colonel O picked her up carefully, holding her like she was made of glass. It's okay now. You're safe. We're taking you home. As the Marines evacuated the prisoners, Admiral Yu interrogated the captured Krillian officers. What he learned made his blood run cold. This wasn't just a random raid, he told Captain Nam. Look at these records. The Krillians have been specifically targeting Villani research facilities across this entire sector. Sir? They're planning to wipe out the entire Villani species. Not for slaves, not for territory. They want the Villani's biotechnology, and they figure it's easier to steal it than trade for it. Captain Nam stared at the data files. That's genocide, sir. Exactly. And according to these files, they're not finished. There's a massive Krillian fleet moving toward the Villani homeworld right now. Admiral Yu activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships prepare for immediate departure. We have a new mission. The Krillians are planning to attack Veltar, the Villani homeworld. We're going to stop them. Admiral, Captain Nam said quietly, our orders were just to rescue the survivors. We're not authorized to start a war. Admiral Yu looked at the tactical display showing the Krillian fleet movements. Then he looked at the monitor showing Somin Park being treated in the medical bay. She was asking the doctors about her 3 protectors, still hoping somehow that they might be alive. Captain 3 Villani died protecting that little girl. They had no orders, no authorization, no backup. They just saw something that was wrong and chose to make it right. Admiral Yu turned to face his bridge crew. We have authorization from the highest authority there is. We have authorization from our conscience. He opened a channel to Earth. Admiral Yu to Fleet Command. We have recovered Somin Park and 17 other survivors. However, we have discovered evidence of planned genocide against the Villani species. Request permission to engage Krillian forces at Veltar. The response took several minutes to arrive. When it came, it was from President Kim himself. Admiral Yu, this is the President. You have full authorization to use any means necessary to protect Villani civilians. The Terran Protection Protocol is now in effect. Show the galaxy what that means. As the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for the Villani homeworld, Somin Park sat in the medical bay with Dr. Young Soo Han, the fleet's chief medical officer. Doctor, she said, holding a drawing she had made, will you make sure this gets to Hummer's family? Dr. Han looked at the picture. It showed 3 insect-like figures standing protectively around a small human girl, with stars shining above them. At the bottom, Somin had written, "For my heroes," in both standard and the musical script of the Villani language. Of course, little one. But wouldn't you like to give it to them yourself? Somin shook her head. Hummer told me that when Villani die, their songs join the music of their ancestors. I want his family to know that his song was the most beautiful one I ever heard. Dr. Han had to wipe his eyes before he could respond. I think that's the most wonderful thing anyone could say about a friend. In the depths of space, Task Force Vengeance raced toward Veltar. Behind them, the news of the rescue was already spreading across the galaxy. The human fleet had struck deep into Krillian territory and rescued their people without losing a single ship. But more importantly, they had sent a message that reached every government and every species. Humanity kept its promises. The 3 Villani researchers had been right to trust them. Admiral Yu stood on his bridge, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace. In a few hours, they would reach the Villani homeworld. If the Krillians were already there, it would be the largest space battle in human history. Admiral, Captain Nam asked, what if we're too late? What if the Krillians have already attacked? Then we make sure they regret it, Admiral Yu replied. And we make sure the galaxy remembers that the Villani species died under human protection. That has to mean something, or Somin's friends died for nothing. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Veltar system. What they found there would change the course of galactic history forever. The sight that greeted Task Force Vengeance at Veltar was worse than Admiral Yu's darkest fears. A massive Krillian armada hung in orbit around the beautiful blue-green world of the Villani, their weapons already firing down at the planet's surface. Dear God, Captain Nam whispered, staring at the tactical display. There must be over 200 Krillian ships, and they're bombarding civilian targets. Admiral Yu's face was stone as he watched the energy readings from the planet below. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were being turned to ash. The Villani had no military fleet, no orbital defenses, no way to fight back against the massive invasion force. How long have they been at this? He asked his sensor officer. Approximately 6 hours, sir. The bombardment started shortly after we rescued the prisoners from their facility. They must have accelerated their timeline when they learned we were coming. Admiral Yu activated the fleet communication system. All ships, battle stations, we're going in. Sir, Captain Nam said quietly. They outnumber us almost 3-1. Our ships are better, but those are still terrible odds. Captain, do you see that planet down there? Every minute we waste planning, more Villani die. And I promised a little girl that her friend's sacrifice would mean something. Admiral Yu's voice carried across the bridge. Besides, since when have humans been afraid of bad odds? The human fleet accelerated toward the Krillian armada at maximum speed. As they approached, Admiral Yu opened communications on all frequencies. Attention, Krillian fleet. This is Admiral Yu of the United Earth Combined Fleet. By order of the United Earth Congress, the Villani species is under human protection. Cease your bombardment immediately and withdraw from this system. The response came from the Krillian War Master commanding the invasion force. His image appeared on the main screen, showing a Krillian even larger and more scarred than Scarth had been. I am War Master Thektar, and I do not take orders from mammals. Your pathetic fleet will be destroyed and your crews will join the Villani as slaves. You have exactly 60 seconds to begin withdrawing. Admiral Yu replied calmly. After that, we will consider you a threat to beings under our protection. And we take threats very seriously, Thektar laughed. 60 seconds. You think your small fleet can challenge the might of Krill? We have conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved hundreds of species. What makes you think you are special? Admiral Yu looked at the chronometer. 55 seconds. You are bluffing, human. You would not risk your ships for alien bugs. 40 seconds. And they're not bugs. They're people who proved they were willing to die for one of our children. Fools. All of you! Thektar snarled. We will crush you and use your ships for scrap metal. Time's up, Admiral Yu said simply. He cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. All ships open fire. And broadcast this message on all galactic frequencies. Any hostile action against Villani worlds, ships, or citizens will be considered an act of war against humanity. The space around Veltar erupted into the largest battle in human history. The human ships might have been outnumbered, but they fought with a fury that the Krillians had never encountered before. Human plasma cannons tore through Krillian armor like paper. Human fighters darted between the massive enemy ships, targeting weapon systems and engines with surgical precision. Captain Donghyun Nam commanded his battle group like a master conductor leading an orchestra of destruction. Focus fire on their heavy cruisers. Don't let them reposition for another bombardment run. The Krillians fought back with brutal efficiency, but they quickly discovered that fighting humans was different from raiding defenseless stations. Every human ship that took damage seemed to fight even harder. Every human pilot who lost a wingman became twice as dangerous. They fight like madmen. One Krillian ship captain transmitted to his commander. They show no fear of death. Then give them death, War Master Thektar roared back. All ships concentrate fire on their flagship. Kill their admiral and the rest will surrender. A dozen Krillian battleships turned their weapons toward the HFY Park. The dreadnought's shields flared as massive energy beams struck its hull. Shields, down to 60%, reported the engineering officer. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Damage control teams seal those breaches, Admiral Yu ordered calmly. Weapons, return fire on the lead battleship. Let's show them what this ship can do. The HFY Park's main gun spoke with a voice of thunder. The massive plasma cannon, designed specifically for ship-to-ship combat, punched straight through the Krillian battleship's armor and tore it in half. The explosion lit up space like a small star, but the battle was far from over. More Krillian ships were arriving from other parts of their fleet, and the human forces were taking heavy casualties. That's when something unexpected happened. Admiral, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's coming from the Villani. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was weak and musical, speaking in broken standard. Human ships. This is Veltar Planetary Council. We have something for you. Our gift to protectors of small human Somin. What kind of gift? Admiral Yu asked. Our knowledge. Our biotechnology. We share freely with those who share our values. Transmitting medical and repair data now. Suddenly, every human ship in the fleet received a massive data download. The Villani were sharing their most advanced healing and regenerative technologies. Medical bays that had been overwhelmed with wounded crew members began working miracles. Hull breaches started sealing themselves as the ship's computer systems integrated Villani biometal technology. Sir, the engineering officer reported with amazement, our hull integrity just jumped to 95%. Whatever the Villani sent us, it's healing our damage in real time. Captain Nam's voice came over the comm from his damaged cruiser. Admiral, my ship was dead in space 5 minutes ago. Now all systems are back online and better than before. How is this possible? It's the Villani way, Admiral Yu replied. They heal instead of harm. And now they're sharing that gift with us. With their ships regenerating damage faster than the Krillians could inflict it, the human fleet pressed their advantage. The tide of battle began to turn. War Master Thektar watched in disbelief as his massive fleet was being systematically destroyed by a smaller human force. This is impossible. No species fights this hard for aliens. You still don't understand. Admiral Yu's voice came over the Krillian command frequency. You killed 3 beings who died protecting one of our children. You made them family, and humans always protect their family. The final blow came when Captain Nam's battle group broke through the Krillian defensive line and began attacking the ships that were still bombarding the planet. One by one, the orbital bombardment platforms were destroyed. All ships cease bombardment, Thektar finally ordered. Retreat! Retreat to the edge of the system. But Admiral Yu wasn't finished. Krillian Warmaster, you started this fight. We're gonna finish it. The human fleet pursued the retreating Krillians, destroying ship after ship. Those that survived did so only because they managed to jump to hyperspace before the humans could catch them. Thektar's flagship was among the last to escape. As it prepared to jump away, the Warmaster sent one final transmission. This isn't over, humans. You've made enemies of the entire Krillian Empire. We will remember this. Admiral Yu's response echoed across known space. Good. Make sure you remember it well. And make sure you tell everyone else what happens when you threaten people under human protection. As the last Krillian ships disappeared into hyperspace, the human fleet turned toward Veltar. The planet was scarred from the bombardment, with several cities damaged, but it was still alive. Admiral, the communications officer reported, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from the planet. Their songs, sir. The Vellani are singing to us. The beautiful, complex harmonies of Vellani music filled the bridge of every human ship. It was a song of gratitude, of friendship, and of hope. Even the battle-hardened Marines had tears in their eyes. Admiral Yu opened a channel to the planet. This is Admiral Yu to the people of Veltar. The threat has been eliminated. Your world is safe. The response came from what sounded like thousands of Vellani voices singing together. When it translated into standard, the message was simple. Thank you, Protector humans. We will remember the songs of Hummer, soft chime flutter, and deep thrum song. They taught us that courage comes in many forms. In the medical bay of the Hyunki Park, Zomin Park watched the planet below through a porthole. Dr. Han sat beside her. Is that where Hummer's family lives? She asked. Yes, little one. And thanks to what he did for you, they're all safe now. So-min pressed her hand against the glass. I want to visit someday. I want to tell them about how brave their family member was. I think they would like that very much. As the human fleet began organizing relief efforts for the damaged planet, news of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed. The humans had done the impossible. They had gone to war with one of the most feared military powers in known space, and they had won. But more than that, they had proven that their protection meant something real. On distant worlds, species that had heard about the Terran Protection Protocol began to take notice.